Battle Through the Heavens, Episode 208. At the end of the previous episode, after the students entered the heavenly tomb, Xiaoyan rose into the air and looked into the distance, where a black cloud charged forward at lightning speed, releasing a terrifying aura. Sensing its arrival, Xiaoyan realized the Alliance army had come. He then turned toward the northern sky as space violently distorted and countless figures tore through it, rushing toward Jianan Academy amid roaring winds. Filled with pride at the vast formation filling the heavens, Xiaoyan let out a thunderous roar that echoed for dozens of kilometers, declaring that if the Han clan wanted war, he would fight them to the end. The black cloud covered the sky, which seemed to have turned dim in an instant. Monstrous-like aura spread in the black cloud and reverberated across this place. It caused the land to shake slightly. There were presently still many people and faction remaining in the Black Corner region. Although Xiaoyan and the others had already warned them, these people did not choose to leave. Most of those who could survive in the Black Corner region were heartless and bold individuals. Hence, it was naturally not easy to get them to abandon the territory that they had fought for many years with just a few words. Xiaoyan and the others simply left things as it was after their warning was unheeded. They would naturally regret it when the time come. The Xiao Gate had also been sent into the heavenly tomb early on. Regardless of what the situation was, this was after all a faction he had established back then. He would naturally not hold back if he could help them. Hence, the current Black Corner region was much emptier as compared to before. Although some stubborn fellows refused to leave, there were also some decisive individuals. After all, the massacre that had happened a couple of days earlier had allowed them to understand just how terrifying the so-called Han clan. The black cloud spread and covered the area around the Black Corner region. Immediately, the black cloud churned and whistled out from his body in a dense fashion. Xiaoyan's expression was grave as he looked at the figures that covered the sky. From the looks of it, the Han clan had come out in full force. It seemed that Hun Tiandi had full intent on obtaining the ancient god mansion. "Be careful," Juner softly spoke by the side. Her pretty eyes were filled with worry. Even she felt that this lineup was extremely terrifying. Xiaoyan nodded slightly. His eyes looked at the middle of the black cloud. There were dozens of figures appearing in the space. The leader was the clan head of the Han clan. Hun Tiandi, the nihility devouring flame, followed closely behind. Behind them were the four old undying fellow who had built the death world back then. The aura of these four old fellows who would not die had actually recovered. Xiaoyan's eyes glanced at the four individuals and his heart sunk involuntarily. Four experts comparable to an 8-star Do Sheng. This was sufficient to cause an imbalance between both parties during the time when Xiaoyan had a solemn face because of the Han clan's lineup. The space above the academy also swiftly became distorted. Immediately, densely packed human figures flashed and appeared. The Alliance army had also arrived. Xiaoyan's body flashed as he saw the black mass of people suddenly appearing in the sky. He immediately appeared in front of the Alliance army. "It seems that your guess is correct. This Black Corner region is indeed the location of the Toshe ancient god mansion." Gu Yuan glanced at the large Han clan's army in the distance and said. Xiaoyan nodded. His eyes swept over the Alliance army. Suddenly, he discovered that the lineup of the Alliance army seemed to have become a lot stronger compared to the last time. The strength within all our three clans had been fully unleashed. Gu Yuan appeared to be aware of Xiaoyan's surprise and laughed. "Don't the three clans need to dispatch people to guard your clans?" Xiaoyan frowned and asked. "The Han clan does not have the courage to separate and attack our three clans at this moment." Lei Ling by the side spoke in a deep voice. "This fight is extremely important. Whoever loses will likely end up with a terrible fate where one can never recover from. Since this is the case, we can only risk it all." Yan Jin laughed. However, a sharp cold light surged within his eyes. Xiaoyan was speechless. He quietly nodded. Indeed, if Hun Tiandi was allowed to successfully advance to the Do D class, only one fate that awaits the three clan regardless of how they defend. Since this was the case, it was better to risk everything and fight now. "That's right. I have already ventured into the bottom of the magma and discovered the ancient god mansion inside. However, there is a mysterious creature guarding at the entrance to the mansion. Its strength is extremely terrifying. I think that it is likely not weaker than Uncle Gu or Hun Tiandi." Xiaoyan spoke with a serious face. These words caused not only the expressions of Lei Ying and the others to change, but it also led to Gu Yuan's body trembling slightly. This big battle would be a little unpredictable if this was the case. An advanced level 9-star Dao Sheng could alter the result of the battle. I have never heard of any non-human race producing an advanced level 9-star Dao Sheng class expert within the last 1,000 years. It is likely that this mysterious creature has existed for an extremely long period of time. Even Hun Tiandi and I might not be comparable with it. Gu Yuan muttered. Xiao Yan and the others nodded. One could indeed explain it this way. After all, that fellow must have existed for a very long period of time in order to become the guardian of the ancient god mansion. It was not unbelievable to say that it was older than Gu Yuan and Hun Tiandi. After all, the life of such a magical beast was its natural advantage. Hun Tiandi slowly stepped out from the distant space while Xiao Yan's group chatted. His eyes were indifferent as they glanced at the opposing alliance. Finally, they paused onto Gu Yuan and Xiao Yan. Gu Yuan, what I have told you earlier is still valid now. If I really successfully advance into the Do D class and you surrender to me, I will not show you any mercy. You should reconsider for the sake of the continuity of the Gu clan. Hun Tiandi spoke in a calm voice. Gu Yuan could not resist laughing after seeing that this person was actually still intending on cooperating with him. He did not speak. All he did was to lift his hand and swung it gently. Immediately, countless number of powerful auras erupted from the Alliance army. Cold and sharp eyes were locked onto the Hun clan's army. How unfortunate. Hun Tiandi sighed softly upon seeing this. He did not say anything else. A bright light cluster flew out from within his storage ring and floated above his head. A foggy light was vaguely present within the light cluster. Finally, it turned into an illusory ancient figure. The energy of this entire place seemed to have boiled following the appearance of the ancient figure. An overlord-like pressure descended from the sky. Tu Shi, ancient god, Gu Yuan. Xiao Yan and the others had grave faces as they watched the bright-haired old man. A solemn exclamation sounded. The only one in this world who could possess such an aura was likely the legendary Toshi, ancient god Jade. They wished to use the Toshi, ancient god Jade, to summon the ancient god mansion. Gu Yuan's eyes flashed as he cried out, "Bang!" Hun Tiandi lifted the Toshi, ancient god Jade, before he suddenly slammed his palm towards the Jianan Academy below. With this strike, a giant 10,000 feet large hand appeared in the sky. Immediately, dust quickly scattered. A loud rumbling sound resounded over this place. The enormous Jianan Academy was directly turned into a tens of thousands of feet large deep gully under this palm strike by Hun Tiandi. There was suddenly the sound of liquid flowing within the deep gully. Soon after, a crimson liquid flowed out from within the ruins of the Jianan Academy. In the blink of an eye, it had buried the Jianan Academy in magma. This palm strike of Hun Tiandi had not only turned the Jianan Academy into ruins, but it had even forced the magma out from underground. Hot magma swiftly surged out from underground like a bright red wave. After which, it spread over the Black Corner region in a mighty fashion. With this speed, the Black Corner region would likely be turned into a sea of magma soon. Stop them. Do not allow Hun Tiandi to use the ancient jade to summon the ancient god cave. Gu Yuan cried out in a deep voice as he looked at the sea of magma spreading under him. Attack! Lei Ying! Yan Jin and the rest suddenly cried out after hearing Gu Yuan. Immediately, countless number of Doqi pillars shot out from the Alliance army behind them and shot towards the Hun clan's army from all directions. In formation, many stern cries were also emitted from within the Hun clan's army after they saw the Alliance army unleashing an attack. Immediately, many black chains with black fog lingering over them shot out from the army. Finally, they crossed each other. In the blink of an eye, they turned into a huge dragnet. Bang, bang, bang. Vast and mighty Doqi light pillars continued to explode on the chain formation, emitted waves of sharp, miserable cries. The black fog on the chains also paled rapidly, seeing the terrifying and indescribable fight that had occurred in the sky. Some of the experts and factions who were originally remaining in the Black Corner region were shocked to the point of having ashen faces. They lowered their heads to look at the Black Corner region, which had been turned into a sea of magma. In an instant, many people began to hurriedly pull back. Compared to this big battle, all the other battles that they had experienced could be considered child's play. Hun Tiandi acted as though he did not notice the intense battle between both parties. He shut his eyes and controlled the ancient jade to sense the ancient god mansion deep under the magma. Humph. Gu Yuan let out a cold snort upon seeing this scene. His body moved, and he directly appeared outside of the chain formation. He waved his hand, and the hard chains immediately exploded apart. He. Gu Yuan, allow me to be the one to fight you instead. A black flame surged in front of Gu Yuan just as he was about to attack. The nihility devouring flame appeared behind him. There were also two old men, who had built the Death World back then, behind him. It seemed that he also understood that even though his soul had advanced into the Dai state, he was still no match for Gu Yuan in a one-on-one battle. So you have actually advanced into having a D-state soul. It looks like the Hun clan has really treated you well. With Gu Yuan's eyesight, he was naturally able to tell that the current nihility devouring flame had already advanced into having a Dai-state soul. The nihility devouring flame laughed coldly. He did not utter anything unnecessary to Gu Yuan. Instead, he extended his hands. Monstrous black flames erupted. An endless suction force surged out from within his body, causing him to appear like a black hole. The two elders behind him also attacked when the nihility devouring flame struck. Their auras were powerful. Clearly, they were fighting with their full strength. You actually wish to stop me with the three of you? Gu Yuan smiled, his body flashed, and he appeared in front of an elder with lightning-like speed. A finger was extended. Immediately, the space within 1,000 feet from his collapsed into nothing, after which the finger was also quickly pressed downwards. Grug. The figure had not even made contact with the elder's body when the latter spat out a mouthful of blood and his body staggered backwards in a miserable fashion. Gu Yuan was about to attack again after injuring one of them with his finger when a black flame began to envelop him. An endless suction force erupted. It was as though it intended to absorb all of the Do Chi within his body. Your devouring power is useless against me. The vast and mighty Do Chi contained a terrifying spiritual assault as it surged out from within Gu Yuan's body. It directly shattered the black flame that was wrapped around him. After which, it grabbed towards the nihility devouring flame. Two elderly figures appeared in front of Xiaoyan, who had charged into the battleground, while Gu Yuan and the nihility devouring flame trio were engaging in a big fight. Their stern, cold cries sounded simultaneously. Bastard, return my deathly silence gate. Hun Yuantian? Xiaoyan merely smiled as he saw the two old men whose body were covered with a rich deathly aura. One of them was Hun Yuantian, whose deathly silence gate had been snatched by Xiaoyan back then. Little bastard, you have ruined the plans of my Hun clan. You must definitely die today. Hun Yuantian's eyes were vicious as they stared at Xiaoyan. Back then, Xiaoyan had taken advantage of his carelessness to snatch the deathly silence gate, causing the Death World to completely collapse. This had resulted in the Hun clan's army to have no choice but to retreat. If it was not because of the current critical state of affairs, it was likely that he would be seriously punished for making such a big mistake, even though he was considered a veteran. Even though this was the case, he was still frequently reprimanded by Hun Tiandi during this period of time. Naturally, his hatred towards Xiaoyan was currently quite intense. Xiaoyan simply curled his mouth in the face of Hun Yuantian's vicious words. Immediately, he glanced at the two people in front of him. A grave expression flashed across his eyes. The Hun clan had directly dispatched 2 8-star Do Shengs to hold him back. From this, it was obvious that the Hun clan intended to kill him. Although it might be extremely troublesome for Xiaoyan to deal with this, it was also not a simple matter for the opponent to defeat him. After all, he was presently a genuine 7-star Do Sheng. Adding his Dai-state soul, his true fighting strength had far surpassed an ordinary 8-star Do Sheng. Although these two were cooperating, they might not be able to beat him. This thought appeared within Xiaoyan's heart. His eyes swiftly swept over the many intense battles throughout the entire Black Corner region. Wild and violent Do Chi spread as many figures fought each other, causing the sea of magma below to continuously emit many thousand feet large magma pillars. The battle is in a stalemate. However, my being able to hold back 2 of the other parties, 8-star Du Sheng, will greatly reduce the pressure on the Alliance army. The battle was at a stalemate while the sky was like a huge meat grinder. A continuous stream of experts from both parties spat out blood and fell into the magma below. The great heat below turned them into ashes. Little bastard, go and die. Hun Yuandi's eyes became increasingly vicious as he looked at Xiaoyan. At the end, he finally could not resist the fury within his heart. With a stern cry, he swung his hand forward. That palm wind, which was covered with a deathly aura, was swung towards Xiaoyan. One sniff of that scent caused one to feel the life force within one's body to gradually disappear. You have really thought too highly of yourself. Xiaoyan laughed coldly after seeing Hun Yuantian attack. The purifying demonic lotus flame swept out from within his body like a storm, after which it turned into a giant fire palm that forcefully received the attack by Hun Yuantian. That strange, deathly aura of the other party had also been swiftly purified by the purifying strength of the purifying, devouring lotus flame. Hun Tiansheng, let's attack together and kill this brat. Hun Tiandi's expression changed as the attack made contact. He could sense that the current Xiaoyan was actually much stronger than back then. After which, he hurriedly cried out. The other dark and icy-faced 8-star Dao Sheng old man also nodded after hearing his cry. The former flashed and appeared behind Xiaoyan. Deathly aura lingered over his finger before it was pressed forward ruthlessly. Death, God finger! Get lost! The huge black finger broke through the space. It was just about to touch Xiaoyan when the latter threw a punch backwards. A terrifying firestorm was formed under his fist as it whistled forward and directly struck onto the huge black finger. King Kong glass body. Xiaoyan suddenly cried out loud after he threw a punch. His body suddenly swelled to 1,000 feet. Bright golden light surged out from within his body. Extermination fire body. The King Kong glass body had just been unleashed when Xiaoyan once again acted with lightning-like speed. Purifying demonic lotus flame wildly shot out from within his body. His huge body also quickly became crystal clear. 2 body-strengthening Dao Qi were unleashed simultaneously. This was something that only Xiaoyan could do after having stepped into the D-state soul. Xiaoyan's aura had become violent and sharp after 2 body-strengthening Dao Qi were unleashed together. His large hand was swung and a palm slammed towards Hun Yuantian. At the same time, he also flicked his finger. Yellow spring palm. Great heaven creation palm. Yellow spring finger. 3 different Dao skills were formed under Xiaoyan's palm at almost the same time. After which, they violently smashed angrily towards Hun Yuantian. Even Hun Yuantian involuntarily had a change in expression after seeing these attacks from Xiaoyan. This ability to use multiple Dao Qi together was something that even he did not have. Death Tomb. Dense deathly aura wildly surged out from within Hun Yuantian's body. Finally, it turned into a 10,000 feet large black tomb in front of him. There was a sharp sound resounding from the tomb. Bang, bang, bang. Many Tian-class Dao skills descended from the sky and violently crashed onto the huge black tomb. Huge energy waves spread, causing the space within 10,000 feet to collapse into a dark black void, faced with this wild and violent explosion. The deathly aura on the black tomb also rapidly disappeared. Finally, a bang sounded and it exploded apart. Qi. Xiaoyan was just about to continue giving chase after glancing at the collapsed tomb when his ear moved. He suddenly turned. His huge fist reflexively smashed ruthlessly onto the space behind him. Bang! The space rippled and a giant black stone pillar broke out from it. It collided heavily with Xiaoyan's fist. Immediately, a loud and clear sound appeared. Xiaoyan and the stone pillar were sent flying backwards. Xiaoyan's body took over a dozen steps back before he stabilized himself. A sweetness rose from his throat. However, this was quickly swallowed by him. The strength of Hun Shengtian was even stronger than Hun Yuantian. He had also used his full strength when he attacked. However, this kind of collision might have caused Xiaoyan to feel a little terrible, but he did not appear to be in a good condition either. Xiaoyan lifted his eyes. He looked at Hun Tiansheng, who had appeared with a stone pillar in his hand. The latter's face was flush red. Even his aura had started to fluctuate intensely. Damn brat! No wonder you were able to snatch the deathly silence gate from Hun Yuantian's hands. Hun Shengtai stared densely at Xiaoyan and spoke in a low and deep voice. It is becoming increasingly difficult to deal with this brat. Let's attack together and exhaust him to death. Hun Yuantian flashed and appeared beside Hun Shengtian before speaking in a dense voice. Xiaoyan laughed coldly after hearing these words. He waved his hand and a black light cluster suddenly appeared in it. Finally, it was transformed into a huge giant black gate. It was surprisingly the deathly silence gate. "Go it!" Xiaoyan waved his sleeve after summoning the deathly silence gate. An intense suction force immediately surged out from within the gate and dragged Hun Yuantian duo into it. Brat, you actually dare to deliver yourself to us." Hun Yuantian duo's eyes brightened after seeing Xiaoyan taking out the deathly silence gate. They did not even put up a resistance as they used the suction force to charge into the deathly silence gate. A cold smile flashed across Xiaoyan's eyes after seeing the actions of those two. He would naturally not repeat the same foolish mistake that Hun Yuantian had once made. Hun Yuantian duo appeared within the deathly silence gate. However, they were hurrying to look for the spiritual stone to remove Xiaoyan's spiritual imprint, when they suddenly discovered that this deathly silence gate was actually filled with a monstrous flame. "Something's wrong, let's escape." The expressions of Hun Yuantian duo changed upon seeing the pink flame that spread over the place. This deathly silence gate had already been meddled with by Xiaoyan. Bang bang. However, the both of them had just pulled back when the purifying demonic lotus flame around them surged over from all directions. The flame turned into many fire dragons that bite wildly at the duo. Boom! Hun Yuantian duo waved their sleeves. Mighty Daoqi pillars scattered the fire dragons that pounced onto them. Their bodies flashed and they appeared at the entrance to the deathly silence world. A 10,000 feet figure suddenly firmly blocked the exit when the two of them appeared in front of the entrance to Deathly Silence World. Soon after, a terrifying spiritual sonic wave suddenly struck at them. Mao! 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 3 continuous yellow spring divine anger were unleashed. That terrifying spiritual sonic wave attack directly sent Hun Yuantian duo flying backwards by 10,000 feet. This wild attack caused their souls to become a little giddy. "Since you have entered, you can forget about leaving." Xiaoyan's icy cold laughter rumbled throughout the deathly silence gate. The seal formed by his hands changed, and many 6-colored flames, which were filled with an extermination force, swiftly appeared in his palm. Finally, they continuously flew into the deathly silence gate. The fire lotus came one after another. They floated in the air of the deathly silence gate, but did not attack Hun Yuantian duo. Instead, they were being gathered one after another within that short moment of time. There was already 10 extermination fire lotus. This number caused the expressions of Hun Yuantian duo to change. They were not afraid of one extermination fire lotus. However, if 10 of them were added together and exploded within this confined space, even the 2 of them would not be able to endure it. "Charge out of here." The both of them exchanged glances and clenched their teeth. Immediately, they turned into 2 rays of light that shot towards the exit with lightning-like speed. They decided to endure Xiaoyan's yellow spring divine anger and charge out from the deathly silence gate. It's too late. Xiaoyan merely smiled coldly as he watched the action of those two. He threw another 3 extermination fire lotus inside. After which, a thought passed through his mind and all the extermination fire lotus within the deathly silence gate wildly exploded at this moment. Moreover, Xiaoyan suddenly slammed his palm onto the deathly silence gate when the extermination fire lotus exploded. The spiritual imprint on the spiritual stone had also been blasted apart. Bang! The deathly silence gate suddenly unleashed waves of black fog as the spiritual stone broke. After which, the space itself also began to collapse at this moment. An indescribable destructive force crazily swept towards Hun Yuan duo with the exterminating strength of the fire lotus explosion. He had let the deathly silence gate self-destruct. An extreme shock and heartache rose onto Hun Yuantian's eyes after he saw this scene. He had been building this deathly silence gate for hundreds of years, yet Xiaoyan had simply commanded it to self-destruct. Banag. However, that terrifying force had already come striking at him while this thought flashed across his mind. It directly devoured the both of them. Xiaoyan watched the deathly silence gate that had exploded wildly from the sky. His body swiftly pulled back and wiped off the cold sweat on his forehead. This time around, these 2 old undying demons would be seriously injured even if they did not die. How can it be so easy to snatch it back? A low and cold laughter sounded. Xiaoyan's heart shook as he turned towards the sea of magma below. An incomparably large swirl had appeared at that spot. It was as though something was about to appear. Ancient God Mansion. Is it finally about to surface? Xiao Yan's eyes became increasingly icy cold as he watched this scene. Giant waves were suddenly formed on the spacious magma sea. A 10,000 feet large whirlpool was slowly formed on the surface of the sea of magma. There seemed to be something appearing from the end of the whirlpool. A kind of mysterious fluctuation rippled throughout the place. The unexpected occurrence that had happened on the magma attracted the attention of many. Immediately, a shocked expression surged on their faces. Xiao Yan's eyes were grave as they looked at the churning magma whirlpool below. A rich caution rose deep within his eyes. He did not forget that there was a mysterious creature guarding the ancient god mansion. If that thing came charging out, there was no predicting what kind of drastic change would occur in this battle. Qi. While Xiao Yan had poured all of his attention into staring at the magma whirlpool, the space a short distance behind him suddenly shook. A miserable old figure appeared. The dense, deathly aura, which had originally covered his body, had faded greatly. Clearly, he was seriously injured. He is actually still alive. Xiao Yan turned his head after detecting this person. He looked at the weary old man, and a surprise involuntarily flashed across his eyes. However, a cold smile appeared after his eyes swept towards a figure grabbed in Hun Tiansheng's hand. That fellow with an unknown fate was naturally Hun Yuantian. Xiao Yan had used over a dozen extermination fire lotus and explode the deathly silence gate. With the superimposition of the two, the destructive force created was frightening enough to cause only to tremble from a feeling a chill. Even though Hun Yuantian duo were 8-star elite Do Sheng, they still ended up with one dead and one seriously injured, Hun Shengtian, who had appeared, spat out a mouthful of fresh blood before looking at Xiao Yan a short distance away with a terrified face. Although there was still a vicious expression flashing in his eyes, he also understood that he was likely unable to fight with Xiao Yan in his current condition. He immediately clenched his teeth and dragged his seriously injured body and quickly withdrew. Xiao Yan glanced at Hun Tiansheng, who had escaped but did not give chase. Although he had schemed and managed to seriously injure one party while killing the other, the exhaustion he had experienced could also not be underestimated. Moreover, the Toshi ancient god mansion was about to appear. Most of his attention was diverted to it. Even though Hun Shengtian was able to escape, he was unable to participate in the battle. Splash, splash. The huge magma whirlpool rotated with an increasingly great intensity. Earth-shaking splashing sound reverberated across the sky. Bang! A loud sound suddenly appeared in the sky. Soon after, miserable figures pulled back. Two of them were in an extreme dire state. The deathly aura that lingered over them had almost completely disappeared. Their fighting strength had also become much weaker. It was really a joke for them to block Gu Yuan with their strength. As long as the attack from that kind of expert managed to make even the slightest contact with them, they would end up being seriously injured. Nihility, sir, we cannot stop him. The two individuals with deathly aura around them had pale faces as they looked at the nihility devouring flame beside them, who had a somewhat chaotic black flame, and cried out. The black flame within the nihility devouring flame's eyes rippled slightly. Some dissatisfaction flashed across his eyes. It was unexpected that he was still unable to fight against Gu Yuan despite his soul having advanced to the D-start. Gu Yuan also appeared a short distance from the trio. His eyes were cold and indifferent as they glanced at them. If it was not because the soul of the nihility devouring flame had reached the D-state, he would have already killed the other two. Otherwise, how could they have been allowed to remain alive until now? However, he also understood that the reason the nihility devouring flame had fought with all their strength was merely to obstruct him. Hun Tiandi. Gu Yuan lifted his head. He looked at the figure controlling the Tushi ancient god Jade. A cold glint flashed across his eyes as he stepped forward. The space fluctuated and he appeared behind Hun Tiandi. A world tide surged. Finally, it turned into a huge tidal palm that fiercely smashed towards Hun Tiandi. Bang! Hun Tiandi laughed loudly in the face of Gu Yuan's attack. A palm was struck forward and the space was shattered. He directly received Gu Yuan's palm strike head-on. Gu Yuan, it's too late. Next, let's wait for the Toshi ancient god mansion to appear. Hun Tiandi swiftly pulled back. His hand was still tightly grabbing onto the Toshi ancient hod jade. Gu Yuan's expression sunk as he heard Hun Tiandi's words. His eyes glanced at the magma sea below and found that the whirlpool on the magma sea had suddenly expanded 10 times. Bang, bang, bang. After the whirlpool was expended, a 10,000 feet large magma fire pillar suddenly spat out from the magma sea in all directions. Many from both parties were caught in it. The extreme heat and offensive strength immediately resulted in deaths from both parties. Hun Tiandi revealed an increasing wild joy in his eyes as he looked at the giant waves appearing on the surface of the magma. He could detect that the Toshi ancient god jade in his hand had suddenly become strangely hot. Splash! The 10,000 feet large magma wave rose suddenly before it came smashing down ruthlessly. It caused magma to splash across the sky. That rapidly rotating magma whirlpool also gradually slowed. A huge magma began to protrude from the surface of the magma sea as the rotation speed slowed. Bright red magma scattered, after which an ancient stone door slowly rose from the magma and stood in the sky in front of the many heated pairs of eyes. The magma on the stone door swiftly disappeared. An ancient and desolate aura immediately filled this world. Everything was silence under this aura. Even those as strong as Gu Yuan or Hun Tiandi felt a terror from within their hearts. It was an aura that stood above this world. Countless pairs of eyes gathered onto the ancient stone door. Finally, these eyes focused on the three ancient words on the stone door: Ancient God Mansion. Hun Tiandi's eyes had unleashed a terrifying light at this moment, even his calmness. His heart involuntarily pounded when he personally saw the words that he had pursued for thousands of years. "I have finally found you," Hun Tiandi muttered to himself. Finally, he involuntarily faced the sky and laughed wildly. His laughter was like thunder as it reverberated across the sky. Is this the legendary ancient god cave? Gu Yuan was a little absent-minded. He was startled as he looked at the ancient stone door that stood quietly on the magma. The aura on it allowed him to understand that this was not some fake object. Instead, it was a genuine Du-Di object. Only something that was left behind by the legendary Du-Di could cause him to feel extremely frightened. Gu Yuan recovered a moment later after seeing the quiet and unmoving ancient stone door. His eyes contained a somewhat complicated feeling. The 8 ancient clans had engaged in multiple chaotic battles for this ancient god mansion. It was unexpected that it could be summoned thousands of years later, when only 4 of the 8 clans remained. The enormous ancient stone door stood on the magma. Everyone appeared exceptionally tiny in front of its giant size. In their eyes, this stone door appeared as though it belonged to another world and was unusually mysterious. Xiaoyan let out a long breath. Although this was already the second time he had seen the ancient stone door, there was still some shock in his heart. He could detect that the closer he was to the stone door, the greater the pressure he felt, based on his guess. There was likely very few people amongst everyone present who could head to the front of the stone door. The ancient god cave has already appeared. It is likely that Hun Tiandi will act to snatch the embryonic dye pill. However, why has that mysterious creature not appear? A light flashed within Xiaoyan's eyes as they cautiously swept over the magma sea. Due to the appearance of the ancient stone door, the entire sea region seemed to have been enveloped by a strange pressure. Under this pressure, even Xiaoyan's D-state soul was unable to probe the activity within the magma. Hun Tiandi inhaled a couple of deep breaths as he stood in the sky. Only then did he suppressing the churning emotions within his heart. Immediately, he slowly raised the Tushi ancient god jade in his hand. The ancient jade vaguely had a light flowing over it, during the time that a light was flickering over the ancient jade. There also seemed to be a light flickering over the tightly shut ancient stone wall. That ancient door, which had been tightly shut for 10,000 years, seemed to show signs of being about to open. Hun Tiandi seemed to rejoice upon seeing this scene before he could open his stride and advance. A figure came hurrying over and attempted to snatch the ancient jade from his hand. Gu Yuan, are you unable to hold back any longer? Hun Tiandi laughed coldly upon seeing this. His body flashed and he appeared in the distance, dodging Gu Yuan in the process. How can it be so simple to open the mansion? Gu Yuan laughed coldly. His body flashed again, and it closely followed Hun Tiandi like a shadow. It did not give him any time to open the mansion. You! Murderous intent surged within Hun Tiandi's eyes as he saw Gu Yuan continued to pester him. His strength was comparable to that of Gu Yuan. If the latter insist on pestering him, he would really be unable to divert his attention. Many pairs of eyes looked at the 2 light figures that seemed to be moving together in the sky. All of them could only clench their hands and stare. They were unable to intervene in a fight on that level. Splash, splash. Xiao Yan glanced at the battle in the sky. His ear suddenly moved as he heard some intense magma churning sound. Immediately, he turned his eyes towards the sea of magma, only to see that it was calm and seemingly void of ripples. This scene caused Xiao Yan to frown. However, he did not shift his eyes away. His gaze stared intently at the surface of the magma. This silence continued for a couple of minutes before he suddenly shrank his eyes. A stern cry sounded, "Get far away from the magma, hurry!" 100,000 feet giant wave suddenly rose on the calm magma sea as this sharp cry sounded. Soon after, an earth-shaking roar resounded over this place in a mighty fashion. The expressions of Gu Yuan and Hun Tiandi changed abruptly after this roar that seemed to have originated from the ancient times was emitted. This aura was actually not weaker than them, ha 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 ha. This emperor is finally able to see the sky again. The 100,000 feet magma shot to the sky as a ferocious aura, which caused the weather to change, erupted from within the sea of magma. The bright red magma seemed to have devoured the world. At a glance, it appeared as though the entire world was filled by 100,000 feet magma. A terrifyingly high temperature had turned this entire world into a furnace. Both armies were forced to hastily withdraw because of the monstrous huge magma wave. Many pairs of eyes were shocked as they looked under the magma. At this moment, even they were able to sense an extremely terrifying creature hidden under the sea of magma. Gu Yuan and Hun Tiandi had also halted because of this scene. Their eyes cautiously looked towards the magma sea. Even they could sense a danger under its powerful aura. It seems that Xiao Yan is indeed right. There is indeed a mysterious creature guarding the ancient god mansion. Gu Yuan's face was solemn as his eyes flickered. Rumble, the magma waterfall that rose to the air, descended abruptly and landed into the magma sea. It turned into a huge wave that quickly spread apart and covered the distant mountain. With the fall of the giant wave, a huge creature suddenly rose from within the sea of magma. Although it was only a small portion of the creature's body, it was still extremely big. The mysterious creature's head, which vaguely contained a ferocious and pressuring aura, rose from under the magma and looked at the many people in the sky. Those huge eyes had a surprise flashing across them. It is unexpected that there is really someone who has obtained the Tu-Shi ancient god jade and summoned the ancient god mansion from that damn place. The mysterious creature's huge eyes swept over the sky. Finally, they paused on Gu Yuan and Hun Tiandi duo. Although there were many people in this world, only these two were worthy of being treated seriously by him. Gu Yuan and Hun Tiandi's eyes were grave and cautious as they looked at the mysterious creature. Even with the experience that the both of them had, they were still unable to identify this enormous creature. After all, they had only seen a small section of this mysterious creature. "I am the clan head of the Gu clan. Gu Yuan, may I know who—" Gu Yuan cupped his hands together towards this mysterious creature and spoke in a deep voice. Hun Tiandi by the side was also afraid that Gu Yuan would cooperate with that mysterious creature. Immediately, he cupped his hands together and uttered his identity. His tone was exceptionally courteous. "Gu clan? Hun clan? Hey, it seems like two factions that were not considered big back then. It is unexpected that you are able to obtain the Tu-Shi ancient god jade." That mysterious creature emitted a deafening roar after hearing the both of them speak. It caused the surface of the magma to rise and formed many magma fire pillars. Gu Yuan and Hun Tiandi were startled upon hearing these words. Based on those words, it seemed that this creature had existed for a long time, tens of thousands of years ago. The Hun clan and the Gu clan were indeed not considered some top factions. Ugh, who has summoned the ancient god mansion? Come to think of it, this emperor does owe him a favor. That mysterious creature once again asked, without being concerned about the shock of those two. Gu Yuan and Hun Tiandi had a change of expression upon hearing this. The formers became uglier while the latter rejoiced. "Ha ha! This friend, the ancient jade, is in my hand. Naturally, only I am able to summon the ancient god mansion." Hun Tiandi stepped forward and laughed. The mysterious creature glanced at Hun Tiandi. Suddenly, an intense light surged. Immediately, its incomparably huge body suddenly shrunk. Within a short instant, it had turned into a purple golden-haired middle-aged man. He lifted his head. Those eyes of his were filled with a rich pressure as they stared at Hun Tiandi. He laughed faintly and said, "I have received your favor and ought to aid you. However, I currently have other things to do. Therefore, we will settle this in the future." Gu Yuan quickly sighed in relief, while the face of Hun Tiandi by the side involuntarily twitched. A chill flowed deep within those eyes. If it was not because he was afraid of the terrifying strength of the mysterious person, it was likely that he would have already given the order to kill it. That middle-aged man ignored Hun Tiandi after he finished speaking. His golden eyes suddenly swept over the sky, after which they paused on one of the figures. An icy cold expression immediately flashed across both of his eyes. Xiao Yan in the sky wore a cautious expression. His face was slightly altered after he saw that this mysterious person had actually threw his eyes towards him. Could it be that this fellow still remembered him? "Brat, come over." The middle-aged man looked towards Xiao Yan. He extended his large hand and a dragon roar appeared. Subsequently, a golden large claw broke through the air and struck towards Xiao Yan. Damn it! Xiao Yan's expression became unusually ugly after he saw that this fellow had simply attacked as he liked. His body hurriedly pulled back. At the same time, a spiritual figure appeared. The yellow spring divine anger was also quickly unleashed. Mao! The spiritual sonic wave ruthlessly smashed onto the large golden claw. However, the latter did not move. "Mister, may I know how has Xiao Yan offended you?" Gu Yuan's expression also changed upon seeing this scene. He hurriedly cried out, "Humph! My target is him alone. I will fight you if you intervene." The mysterious person cried out in an icy cold voice after hearing Gu Yuan's cry. He had detected the scent of his child from Xiao Yan's blood a couple of days ago. That bloodline strength was unique to their tribe. Yet, Xiao Yan was clearly a genuine human when one looked at him. In that case, there was only one answer. He had once devoured and refined his child's bloodline strength. His child might have even been killed by this person. The ferocious expression within this mysterious person's eyes had become extremely dense the moment he thought of this. "Haha, Gu Yuan, it seems that even the heavens aren't helping you." Hun Tiandi was also startled because of this scene. However, he quickly recovered and involuntarily laughed out loud. Gu Yuan's face was furious green. Although he was unaware of why this mysterious person would target Xiao Yan, the latter was ultimately a member of the Alliance army. Moreover, Xiao Yan was also Gu Yuan's son-in-law. Naturally, it was impossible for Gu Yuan to simply watch him be killed by this mysterious person. He immediately cried out furiously, "Stop him!" Lei Ying and the rest from the Alliance army clenched their teeth upon hearing Gu Yuan's voice. They could only summon their courage and attack. Xiao Yan was not an ordinary character. He was not someone whom they could simply abandon. Hence, they could not choose to stand idly by the side and do nothing. Humph! Rushing wind sound appeared from around the mysterious person as the latter attacked Xiao Yan. The mysterious person snorted coldly. He suddenly lifted his head, a roar, which caused even the world to tremble, wildly swept apart. Bang bang! Lei Ying, who had just charged forward, had not had the time to attack when he was struck by the terrifying sonic wave. Immediately, he was shot backwards. Blood continuously churned in his body while his face was covered with shock. "Brat, hand over your life." That mysterious figure flashed and appeared in front of Xiao Yan, who was pulling back. His hand grabbed towards Xiao Yan's head. Bang! A huge nine-colored light suddenly flashed across the sky when the mysterious person was attacking. It surrounded Xiao Yan's body and quickly withdrew. Nine-colored heaven swallowing. Python? It is unexpected that there are still heaven-swallowing pythons still existing in this world. That mysterious person was startled because of this scene. His eyes looked at the nine-colored giant python in the sky and exclaimed in surprise, "Gold Emperor incinerating heaven execution." The golden flame spread throughout the sky amidst a roar. Finally, it turned into a golden light beam that was tens of thousands of feet in size. Finally, it smashed ruthlessly towards that mysterious person. Bang! The mysterious person threw a punch forward in the face of this attack. That ordinary palm wind immediately shattered the light ray when the punch was thrown. Insignificant attack. The punch shattered the ray of light. That mysterious person smiled faintly. Immediately, his golden eyes looked towards Xiao Yan in the distance. He opened his stride and appeared in front of the latter in a ghost-like fashion. "You won't be able to escape." The ferocious expression within the mysterious person's eyes suddenly soared as he looked at Xiaoyan, who was a short distance away. Purple gold light appeared, after which it struck towards Xiaoyan and Jun beside him. Go! The light came striking over, after which the surrounding space was directly sealed. Xiaoyan's expression changed drastically, immediately. A crazy expression suddenly rose into his eyes, his palm smashed onto Jun beside him, and a huge force shattered the area around the light seal. His body began to swell rapidly. He was actually planning on self-destructing his physical body. Although the self-destruct of one's physical body would not lead to one's death once one reached Xiaoyan's level, it would still result in an extremely great harm. It might even affect Xiaoyan's foundation. However, he did not have any choice at this moment. Don't. Shun'er's expression quickly paled after seeing this scene. Her originally cool and cold voice had suddenly become sharp. Damn, brat. You are really ruthless. That mysterious person was also startled by Xiaoyan's ruthlessness. However, his attack did not weaken. Xiaoyan's body swelled rapidly. Just when his body was about to collapse, a light seal on his hand suddenly unleashed a brilliant luster. The dragon seal Ziyan had left on him allowed the both of them to detect if the other was in a dangerous situation. Xiaoyan, don't self-destruct. An anxious female voice was suddenly emitted from within the flickering light seal, after which a bright golden light suddenly surged from the dragon seal. It quickly wrapped around Xiaoyan's body and suppressed his symptoms of being about to self-destruct. Qi. The space in front of Xiaoyan swiftly split and formed a huge crackline after Xiaoyan's self-destruct was suppressed. Bright golden light erupted. Finally, it turned into a huge golden dragon. The dragon curled and swiftly wrapped around Xiaoyan. Ziyan, give way. Xiaoyan's expression changed drastically after he saw the huge dragon, which had suddenly broke out from the space. Given Ziyan's strength, her body would be instantly shattered into a pool of blood if that attack firmly struck onto her body. The large purple gold seal, which was filled with a terrifying strength, suddenly appeared above the head of the huge dragon in front of the shocked eyes of the Alliance army and the wild joy of the Hun clan. However, the huge seal suddenly halted just when everyone thought that blood would splatter. The light seal rapidly collapsed. Light shot out in all directions and shone onto that mysterious person's face. His body had begun to shudder as though he was suffering from a stroke. Child. The purple gold light seal was suspended over the huge dragon's head. Even Ziyan could only shut her eyes in the face of the great destructive force. However, when she was prepared to endure this sudden extermination like assault, when the light seal came to a sudden halt, panting sound suddenly appeared across the sky as everyone watched the still light seal above the huge dragon's head. Some of the experts from the Hun clan revealed disappointed expressions. Bastard, Gu Yuan's expression had become relatively ugly. He clenched his teeth and his body flashed. After which, he gave up on dealing with Hun Tiandi and appeared in front of the mysterious person. He waved his sleeve and a powerful wind forced Ziyan and Xiaoyan back. Both of his eyes contained some fury as he looked at the mysterious person in front of him and demanded in a deep voice, "Aren't you a little overboard to use a fatal attack the moment you strike?" That mysterious person acted as though he did not hear Gu Yuan's words. His eyes were stunned as they stared at the large golden dragon wrapped around Xiaoyan. He could sense an extremely familiar bloodline scent from within the golden dragon's body. That was a bloodline from the same ancestry. The only one in this world who could possess it was the child of his from back then. Child, those golden eyes of that mysterious man, which were originally filled with a monstrous-like ferocity, had become gentle at that moment. His heart, which had been calm and quiet for countless of years, suddenly pounded intensely. His eyes stared at Ziyan as he muttered. Gu Yuan was startled upon seeing this fellow's expression. He frowned and asked, "Who is your child?" The huge golden dragon shrunk swiftly. Finally, it turned into a purple-haired lady with a graceful figure. Her pretty eyes were a little furious as he glared at the mysterious person. After which, she supported Xiaoyan beside her and asked, "Are you all right?" "I'm fine." "Why have you come?" Xiaoyan wiped off the trace of blood on the corner of his mouth. He glanced at Ziyan beside him and involuntarily asked with a bitter smile, "How dare you ask me this? Such a big matter has occurred, yet you did not inform my ancient void dragon tribe." Ziyan's eyebrows were straightened when this was mentioned. Finally, she spoke angrily, This matter is far too big. If your ancient void dragon tribe is dragged into it and something unexpected occurs, you will have difficulty surviving. Xiao Yan sighed. Given the Hun clan's character, which faction on this continent would be able to survive independently if they managed to obtain the ancient god mansion? Ziyan rolled her eyes towards Xiao Yan. She quickly looked at the mysterious person who was blocked by Gu Yuan. With a frown, she asked, "Who is this person? What terrifying strength? However, this aura of his seems a little familiar." Her final sentence was extremely soft. After all, she did not remember that she was once acquainted with such a powerful person, the guardian of the ancient god mansion. "I do not know why he is insisting on killing me." Xiao Yan laughed bitterly. He had merely barged into that realm below and did not have any deep hatred with this person. Hence, he was completely unable to comprehend the mysterious person's murderous intent. Things are a little troublesome. Ziyan sighed. Her hand gently drew across the space in front of her. A spatial crack was formed. One could hear the sound of rushing wind from within it. Soon after, many figures came rushing out. They were surprisingly the elders of the ancient Void Dragon tribe. "Although my ancient Void Dragon is no longer as strong as when it was at its peak, we will definitely repay the great favor you have bestowed upon our ancient dragon tribe. This time around, we will use all of our strength to help you." Xiao Yan widened his mouth after seeing the many elders from the ancient Void Dragon tribe. He sighed and gravely cupped his hands together towards these people. "A mere thanks does not do justice to such a big favor. Xiao Yan will remember the help you have lent me today." "Haha, Mr. Xiao Yan is too courteous. If you had not intervened time and time again, how would our ancient dragon tribe get the chance to unite?" The many elders immediately cupped their hands together and courteously said after hearing Xiao Yan's words, "Haha. This friend, if you wish to kill that brat, I can help you block this Gu Yuan." Hun Tiandi looked at the mysterious person facing off against Gu Yuan. His heart involuntarily rejoiced as he laughed. Gu Yuan's expression immediately changed upon hearing those words. "Stop being a busybody." That mysterious person, who was originally extremely fierce, suddenly cried coldly towards Hun Tiandi as Gu Yuan's expression changed. "You!" Seeing that his friendly attempt was met with a cold response, Hun Tiandi involuntarily became furious despite his control over himself. However, he quickly suppressed it. A dense expression flashed across his eyes. "Zhu Huo, you little brat, do you still remember this emperor?" That mysterious person turned his head after forcing Hun Tiandi back with his words. His eyes turned towards the ancient dragon tribe's elder and cried out in a deep voice, "Arrogant fellow!" That group of ancient void dragon tribe elder was immediately greatly furious. This fellow was actually putting them down with his words. That mysterious person was startled after being furiously chided by these elders. He immediately felt neither able to laugh nor cry. It had been so many years. Even with the lifespan of the ancient dragon tribe, it was likely that very few could live until now. The person standing at the leader's spot amongst the many elders was currently the oldest first elder of the ancient void dragon tribe. He was also the Zhu Huo that the mysterious person had mentioned. His eyes were currently a little stunned as he looked at the mysterious person. Those turbid eyes of his were a little lost in deep thought. The ancient void dragon tribe had not had a dragon emperor for a long time. This emperor is the true current dragon emperor of the ancient void dragon tribe. Ziyan's face was also a little icy as she spoke in a faint voice. "Ugh." Seeing Ziyan opened her mouth, the mysterious person, who had a face filled with might and dignity earlier, immediately became stunned. Gu Yuan had expected him to attack and hurt someone when he surprisingly rubbed his hands together in embarrassment. He nodded repeatedly. "You are correct. It is right for you to become the Dragon Emperor. You should be the Dragon Emperor." Everyone, including Ziyan, was stunned upon seeing his appearance. They quickly revealed some strange expression. This fellow was really strange. This elder. Today is the big war between our alliance army and the Hun clan. I hope that you can stand idly by the side and not intervene." This Yan's expression softened as she said, "Not intervene? All right, I will do as you say. He. Can you allow me to get a little closer?" That mysterious person nodded without hesitation after hearing this, after which he uttered those words with a straight face. Nothing in his current behavior displayed the demeanor of an extremely skilled person from earlier. Everyone felt as though they had been struck by lightning after hearing this mysterious request. Some black lines appeared on her forehead. However, she could only nod her head due to the other part's terrifying strength. Gu Yuan's group around frowned deeply upon seeing Fellow's sudden strange behavior. However, they involuntarily sighed in relief after seeing that this person did not have any murderous intent, regardless of what the situation was. It were best not to be enemies with this person. That mysterious person's figure appeared in front of Ziyan in an instant after he had obtained permission to do so. His eyes swept over that beautiful face. That hard face of his revealed a complicated smile as he sighed softly. "You look a lot like your mother." "You have seen my mother?" Ziyan's expression was quickly altered after hearing these words. She looked at the man in front of her in disbelief. When her eyes clearly saw the pair of golden eyes, a strange feeling suddenly rose from deep within her heart. This kind of unusual feeling caused Ziyan's delicate body to suddenly tremble. Her silver teeth gently bit her red lips. Suddenly, she extended her hand and grabbed the hand of the person in front of her. Bright golden light suddenly erupted from within both of their bodies the moment their hands made contact. Finally, the light merged perfectly at the point where their hands were in contact. A kind of extremely terrifying pressure vaguely spread. Bam! The many elders from the ancient dragon tribe behind Ziyan immediately knelt. That kind of pressure caused them to be unable to even retaliate. Ziyan was startled as she looked at the golden light, which entwined perfectly with each other. Great ripples appeared in her eyes. An instant later, she suddenly withdrew her hand as though she had suffered from an electric shock. Her pretty eyes stared at the gentle-looking man in front of her, and her eyes became icy. Xiaoyan, who was standing behind Ziyan, seemed to have comprehended something after seeing this scene. He could sense a bloodline strength completely similar to that of Ziyan. It was likely that there was a blood relation between the two. Moreover, this relationship could very be father and daughter. It was very likely that this mysterious person was the old dragon emperor of the ancient void dragon tribe who had been missing for thousands of years. No wonder he was planning to kill me. It is actually because my body possessed the ancient dragon essence blood that Ziyan had once given me. Only at this moment did he understand why this fellow was insisting on chasing him. However, from the looks of Ziyan's expression, it seemed that he was not overly excited. Nevertheless, Xiaoyan could sense the huge wave churning in her heart. "Child." The purple-gold-haired man was a little helpless as he looked at Ziyan's face, which had suddenly turned icy cold. He clearly did not have much experience with regards to this. He could only continuously rub his hand and looked at Ziyan. He was completely unaware of how he should speak. "I am an orphan. I do not have father and mother." Ziyan spoke in a cold voice. However, his voice caused one to feel a heartache. Xiaoyan sighed. Ziyan back then was living alone in the deep mountains of the Black Corner region. Although her talent was outstanding, her life was ultimately not good. Subsequently, she had accidentally eaten an unripe body-transforming grass. Only then was she brought to the inner academy by First Elder Su Qian. However, she continued to remain lonely. She gradually began to have friends only after meeting Xiaoyan. Now that he thought about it, that greedy and intelligent little girl had a heartache that no one knew. The purple-haired lady stood in front of him. Some tears disappointingly rolled down her eyes as she spoke. "Father," she had once greatly anticipated this scene. It's my fault. I should not be greedy for the ancient god mansion. It is all because of that bastard Toshi ancient god. He had schemed against me and caused me to be trapped for such a long time." That stern-looking purple-gold-haired man panicked after seeing the tears within Ziyan's eyes. He tried to stumble forward. "Child, stop crying. It is all my fault. Father will listen to you no matter what you say in the future. I can swear if you don't believe me." Xiaoyan sighed in relief within his heart when he saw this peak expert, who had once shook the entire continent, acting in such a helpless manner. It seemed that he really did care greatly about Ziyan. The surrounding people were also completely quiet. Clearly, they did not know just what was happening. Those elders from thee had all become stunned. A thought that caused them to tremble surged within their hearts. Ziyan gently inhaled. Her eyes were red as she stared at the somewhat straightforward middle-aged man who originally had an extremely mighty aura. rubbing his hands in front of her. Suddenly, she extended her finger and pointed at Hun Tiandi in the distance. Her noise had some sound as she said, "In that case, can you kill him?" "All right." The middle-aged man was startled after hearing this. Immediately, a ferocious expression suddenly rose within his eyes. The Alliance army became stunned as they saw a monstrous, ferocious aura once again surging onto the middle-aged man. On the Hun clan's side, their originally gloating expression had immediately become ugly. "Your Majesty, the former Dragon Emperor, is it really you?" At this moment, Elder Zhu Luo's, whose mind was blurry, had finally awakened. He had also found a face similar to the person in front of him from his distant memory. Immediately, his body trembled continuously from the excitement. Even his old tears had begun to flow. "I have thought that you have completely forgotten about this emperor." The middle-aged man smiled and remarked after heading this little fellow don't dare to do so." Elder Zhu Huo shook his head repeatedly, although his external appearance seemed even older. He understood that he was merely a youth back when Ziyan's father was in charge of the ancient Void Dragon tribe. The other elders of the ancient dragon tribe looked at each other. Excitement surged within their eyes. No one had expected the previous Dragon Emperor, who was rumored to be missing, would actually still be alive in this world. With this being the case, the strength of the ancient Void Dragon tribe would undoubtedly soar, seeing this ending, which had suddenly become the meeting of long-lost kins. Xiao Yan could only smile bitterly and shake his head. Soon after, a joy rose within their hearts. It was unexpected that this mysterious expert and Ziyan actually had such a relationship. In this way, the situation was going to be turned around. "So you are the previous Dragon Emperor of the ancient Void Dragon tribe." Gu Yuan sighed after seeing that the atmosphere was quite good. He immediately cupped his hands together and laughed. "Although I am older than you, one's strength is still the most important. You can call me Zhu Kun." That so-called previous Dragon Emperor did not put on airs when facing Gu Yuan. He merely waved his hand and said, "Brother Zhu Kun." Gu Yuan revealed a smile on his face upon hearing this. He cupped his hands together. It was naturally extremely beneficial to be acquainted with such an expert. "Your Majesty, Xiao Yan is a great benefactor of our ancient dragon tribe. He had rescued our tribe from many critical situations. Moreover, if it was not because of him, Ziyan would not have been able to safely return to our tribe." Elder Zhu Huo stepped forward and spoke respectfully. "Critical situation? How is the ancient Void Dragon tribe like now?" Zhu Kun was startled upon hearing this. His expression quickly sunk. His era was the peak of the ancient Void Dragon tribe. There was hardly any factions on the continent who would dare to offend him. Elder Zhu Huo hesitated for a moment, after which he roughly explained some of the incidents that had occurred after he, the Dragon Emperor, had gone missing. Zhu Kun's eyes had a fury flashing over his eyes after he heard the ancient dragon tribe was separated into 4. Clearly, he did not expect that these fellows, who had originally been extremely respectful towards him, would actually be so bold after he disappeared. "It seems that I am really muddle-headed this time around." Fortunately, they did not make a big mistake. Some cold sweat had suddenly appeared on Zhu Kun's forehead after Zhu Huo roughly explained the situation. He smilingly looked at Xiao Yan. The expression on his face was extremely warm. It was completely different from his ferociousness from earlier. From what Zhu Huo had summarized, he could tell that Ziyan had quite a good relationship with this Xiao Yan. Adding this to how Ziyan had risked her life to protect Xiao Yan earlier, he understood that if any mishap had occurred to Xiao Yan today, it was likely that the matter would be difficult to resolve. Xiao Yan was a little speechless as he looked at the extremely warm face. At this moment, all he could do was to shake his head helplessly. He said, "Elder really knows how to joke. Calling me Elder makes us appear like strangers. You are good friends with Ziyan. If you don't mind, you can call me Uncle." Zhu Kun waved his hand and hurriedly said Xiao Yan was once again speechless. He left neither able to laugh nor cry as he cupped his hands together and called, "Uncle Zhu Kun." Zhu Kun smilingly nodded after seeing this. The corner of his eyes drifted towards Ziyan, who had been quiet. His heart rejoiced a little after seeing that the latter's expression appeared to become somewhat warmer. "Ha ha, since I have promised my daughter, I will have to take this fellow's life." Zhu Kun turned his head. His eyes looked at Hun Tiandi some distance away before he spoke with a grin. Gu Yuan by the side involuntarily smiled. He looked at the extremely ugly expression of Hun Tiandi. Suddenly, he had a relaxed feeling of wanting to laugh towards the sky. This was really the case of one's luck being changed. That fellow from earlier was attempting to add insult to injury earlier. However, he did not expect that the situation had been completely turned around in an instant. Based on his senses, Gu Yuan already understood that Ju Kun was definitely not weaker than him. The latter was also at the advanced 9-star Do Sheng class. With their strength combined, even Hun Tiandi would suffer a miserable defeat. It had been many years since I have fought. It is really enjoyable for me to be able to encounter such a big battle immediately after I have been fed. Ju Kun's body gradually floated. He clenched his fist. Purple golden luster slowly spread from within his body as he stared at Hun Tiandi and laughed. Humph. Seeing this sudden change in the situation, Hun Tiandi snorted coldly while wearing an ugly expression. The ancient jade in his hand suddenly unleashed a bright light pillar. The light pillar shot down from the sky, after which it directly shot onto the ancient door. He had already used the full strength of the ancient jade. Bang! The ancient door, which had been shut for an extremely long time, suddenly began to shake under the light pillar. Traces of cracks began to appear. The cracks became increasingly huge. A moment later, the ancient stone door was slowly opened towards the side amidst a creaking sound. Chi! An ancient ripple, which seemed to have originated from the ancient times, suddenly rushed out from behind the ancient door the moment it was opened. Both armies seemed to have suffered a heavy blow under this ripple. Their formation was turned into a chaos. Some of the weaker individuals were being forced back by 100,000 feet. Be careful! Xiaoyan hurriedly stabilized his body after seeing the army formation being scattered by this wave. He quickly reminded in a deep voice, "The ancient god mansion is about to be opened." Gu Yuan let out a low cry. His eyes stared intently at those ancient giant doors, which were slowly opening. Has it been finally opened? Ju Kun was a little absent-minded as he watched this scene. He had tried all sorts of method to open the mansion while he was trapped in that space. However, they were to no avail. He was finally able to see this scene today. Bang, bang, bang. The ancient ripple became even more intense as the stone door was opened. At the end, there were very few experts from both parties who could still remain floating in the air. Gu Yuan, do you know just what is inside the ancient god mansion? Ju Kun in the sky watched the gradually opening ancient door before suddenly asking, I am not very certain. All I know is that the thing inside will allow one to advance to the Do D class. Gu Yuan hesitated for a moment before replying, it is indeed able to allow one to advance into the Do D class. This is because there is an embryonic dye pill inside the mansion. If I guess correctly, this should be the target of Hun Tiandi. If the latter could obtain it, it is very likely that he will advance into the Do D class. Ju Kun said, Oh. Gu Yuan's expression was altered slightly after he heard this. Embryonic D pill. If this was really the case, it might really possess that unbelievable ability. We must not allow Hun Tiandi to obtain the embryonic dye pill. Otherwise, once he advanced into the Dao D class, the Han clan will definitely not let us off, given their character. Gu Yuan spoke in a deep voice. Ju Kun nodded. He also understood just how terrifying an elite Do D was. Just a realm that the Toshi ancient god had used was able to trap him for thousands of years. From this alone, it was possible to tell that the so-called Do Sheng was perhaps just like an ant in the eyes of a genuine Do D. We will take the lead to charge in after the ancient god mansion is fully opened. As long as we are able to obtain the D-tier embryonic pill before Hun Tiandi, it would not be too difficult for us to kill him given our strength, Ju Kun said. We will do as Brother Ju Kun suggests. The two of them came to a quick agreement. With Ju Kun's help, Gu Yuan no longer needed to worry about being unable to deal with Hun Tiandi. Xiaoyan smiled as he looked at Gu Yuan and Ju Kun, who were standing proudly. With such an expert aiding them, the situation had been changed almost instantly. Xiaoyan gently exhaled. He turned his head to look at Ziyan beside him. She was startled as she looked at Ju Kun's back. From the looks of it, it seemed that she had not managed to recover from reality. Xiaoyan could only sigh softly in the face of this. Xiaoyan, do you think that I should recognize him? Ziyan turned her head, looked at Xiaoyan and suddenly asked, "If it is not because I was lucky back then, I would have already become the food of other magical beasts. You should just do what your heart tells you to. There are no parents who do not love their children in this world. I have been to the place where he was trapped. It was a dark and lonely place. His life during these years was also likely quite hard." Xiaoyan hesitated for a moment before he spoke in an appropriate manner. He understood that Ziyan felt a little lost at this father of hers who had suddenly appeared. She did not know how she should deal with this matter. Ziyan nodded quietly but did not speak. Xiaoyan spread his hands and did not say anything more. Such matters must ultimately be resolved by Ziyan. Rumble. The ripple emitted from huge ancient stone door became increasingly fierce while Xiaoyan was chatting with Ziyan. The gap between the large doors became bigger and bigger when the fluctuation was emitted. At the end, it had finally completely stiffened under the loud sound. Bang! A fluctuation that seemed to have originated from the prehistoric time suddenly spread as the ancient stone doors were fully opened. The entire sea of magma had been blasted until huge waves were formed. The land trembled. Many 10,000 feet large deep abyss were formed. The purifying demonic lotus flame covered Xiaoyan's body. He did his best to reject that kind of prehistoric pressure. The entire area within a 50-kilometer radius seemed to only possess the top experts from both parties. The remaining individuals were forcefully scattered apart. Some strange ripples was suddenly formed over the ancient stone door. The space became distorted. That huge door seemed to have agglomerated into a seemingly transparent tunnel. "Move!" Gu Yuan and Zhu Kun rushed forward at the same time the moment the transparent tunnel was formed. Hun Tiandi and the Nihility devouring flame had also turned into two rays of light, which charged into the tunnel with lightning-like speed. "We should also go." Xiaoyan let out a low cry after seeing this scene. He rushed forward with extreme speed, enduring the dense pressure and charged directly into the tunnel. The experts from both parties also swarmed in from behind. The entire sky became empty as the many individuals charged into the tunnel. Only that ancient large door continued to quietly stand above the sea of magma.